You're going to ban the advertising of the foods that are bad, but the big brands, they can still advertise some of their other products that aren't considered to be unhealthy. And actually, if you see the big burger brand that's promoting a salad, maybe, you think about the big burger brand and you think about their juicy, unhealthy burger, don't you?
We're banning products, not brands. What we're announcing today is confirmation that we'll be banning junk foods from all the transport network in London that I'm in charge of. And the context is this, Ben, there are 30 million journeys each day on our network. 1.2 million children use advantage of public transport. And what happens is these children put pressure on parents or carers to buy the junk food. And there are some of these brands who have healthier alternatives, and we're encouraging, if they want to advertise on the TFL network, to advertise healthier alternatives so that children who are susceptible to the advertising put pressure on mum, dad or carer to buy the healthier option rather than the junk food.
We've had the reaction from the Chief Executive of the Advertising Association is there's no clear evidence that a ban on high-fat, salt, sugar advertising on TFL out-of-home estate will have a positive effect on reducing childhood obesity rates in London. Not only will the measure fail to achieve the end goal of reducing childhood obesity, it will also damage the business in our capital, reduce TFL's income from advertising, potentially putting increased pressure on the commuters through higher fares. So actually, is there any sense that this is going to have an impact other than taking money away from TFL?
Well, I've got a choice to listen to advertising men and women who make millions of pounds marketing junk food towards children, or the chief medical officer, clinicians and experts who tell me it's important to take action. Diabetes UK have published a report recently that shows there are record numbers of children now suffering with type 2 diabetes. In Amsterdam, they've, over the course of the last few years, made big progress dealing with the issue of child obesity and overweight children. This year, they announced a ban on advertising on the metro of junk foods, but also over the course of a number of years, they've made real progress.
I accept by itself. So you're just, for instance, here's an advert that might appear that's a healthy one. I'm going to hold it up. You'll recognise the brand. It's a meal that's under 600 calories. It looks very much like an ordinary chicken burger, and so you're still connecting people with those brands. What Amsterdam did is get rid of all the junk food advertising altogether, and you're not removing the restaurants from some stations, are you?
Well,
and the smell of a burger is often the biggest advertising of all. So if you really want to get serious, maybe get rid of all of those outlets altogether.
Well, hold on a sec. On the one hand, I'm being criticised because advertising bans don't work. On the other hand, I'm being criticised for not going far enough. Which one is it?
I know it's a tough situation, but I'm afraid it's the one you've got to try and unravel, isn't it?
What I'm clear about is, by itself, one measure won't solve the issue of child obesity and overweight children. The last time I was with you, Kate, you and Ben suggested encouraging schools to take part in the Daily Mile. Well, I took up your idea, and we're encouraging all primary schools in London. So far, 400 have already done this, to take part in the Daily Mile. That will make a big difference. Banning junk food adverts on the TFL network will make a difference. On top of that, I've set up London's first child obesity task force. Paul Linlay and Professor Karina Hawkins are leading that work. Some of the world's leading experts doing that work. We're also going to ban fast food outlets opening within 400 metres of schools. Really important to take action there. We've made sure in nurseries, childminders, children's centres, they can take advantage of the Healthy Early Years programme I'm running. They can get a gold, bronze or silver to make sure children know the importance of nutrition and exercise. We're also encouraging more people to walk and cycle. I've appointed London's first walking and cycling commissioner. What we saw in Amsterdam is a package of measures can make a difference. And you're right, in the report that you started off with, Ben commented, 4 out of 10 children in our city aged 11 are obese. And what's even more heartbreaking is in the poorer parts of London are the worst levels of child obesity and overweight children. That's why we're taking action. And that includes, by the way, allowing Veg Power to use the TFL estate to promote healthier alternatives. And the Food Foundation is doing really good work there. And it's really important to give parents, carers, an alternative to the junk food adverts they're bombarded with.
Yes, it's a whole-scale approach that you're putting forward, isn't it? And, of course, the other big issue that is absolutely occupying Londoners, and, in fact, the nation's worries, is knife crime, isn't it? And I know you've talked about the appalling record in London, 120 murders this year. That's more than the whole of last year already. And you said it's going to take probably a decade to tackle it from all sorts of approaches. The people that talk to us, and we haven't talked to you since you said that, the people that talk to us say they need emergency measures now. Children are terrified walking home from school. They are very fearful, you know, they don't know what to do, and neither do their families. So where are the emergency immediate measures to keep them safe?
Well, firstly, I didn't quite say that you know, it'll be 10 years before we solve this in London. What I said was the experience from Glasgow. It just took them 10 years to get on top of this, and it's a generational shift.
Do you think it'll be quicker than a decade?
Well, no, we're taking action now. We've been taking action since I became mayor. Just to put what you said in context, Kate, I met more bereaved families this week. 15 teenagers this year have lost their lives because of fatal stabbings. 6 teenagers have been shot to death, and so that's the context. It's young people who have been targeted by this violent crime. So we've increased from City Hall the resources we can to the overstretched and under-resourced officers working their socks off. There's a special team who go about every day, targeted stop and searches, taking weapons off our streets, knives, guns, offensive weapons, making the arrests. We're also investing in young people. Just this week alone, I announced a further £13 million to give, and it went out of City Hall. So this year alone, there'll be 60,000 more young people doing constructive things in their evenings and weekends rather than hanging around street corners. But the context is this, Kate. Over the last 7-8 years, we've lost from our capital city more than 3,000 police officers. On top of that, more than 3,000 community support officers. And on top of that, more than 6,000 staff. And on top of that, youth centres and other facilities for young people have closed down. So what I say is this. Our overstretched, under-resourced officers are working really hard. We're investing in youth centres. We've also set up London's first violence reduction unit, COP in Glasgow. City Hall, police, the NHS, local councils, education, social services, youth centres, young people working together to try and grapple with this problem. There are 9-year-olds, Kate, 9-year-olds who think the right thing to do is leave home with a knife. There are 9-year-olds joining criminal gangs because it gives them a sense of belonging. And I commend GMB, not just you and Ben, but Piers and Susanna, who are reminding parents, big brothers, big sisters, and the entire community that we've got to all do our bit in grappling with this issue.
It's something that we talk about an awful lot on the programme, and of course it consumes you. Sajid Javid was saying that he wants to see more stop and search. You mentioned it there. Do you think that's something that's going to escalate?
Hold on a sec.
You've mentioned it. Is it something that we're going to see more of, particularly? Because I think that's a very visible indicator, isn't it, that things are being done? Because a lot of the things you're talking about, we don't necessarily see on the streets.
Well, my criticism when you mentioned Sajid Javid is the context of him talking the talk but not walking the walk. Of course I want to see more targeted, intelligence-led stop and search, but you know what? We're fewer officers now in London than any time since 2003, so don't be surprised if somebody who's involved in criminality thinks they can get away with it because there are fewer officers. Our officers are cancelling rest days, are cancelling holidays to keep our city safe. And what I say to Sajid Javid, if he's watching, or if his advisors are watching, is the evidence is now inescapable. The evidence is there. The cuts have consequences. When you cut year after year after year the number of police officers, it has an impact on our safety. So look, you can talk the talk, Mr. Javid, but look, invest in our policing, invest in policing by reversing the cuts you've made over the last 7-8 years so Londoners can feel safer than they do now.
So what's the figure that you need that would keep us safe?
So at the moment we have fewer than 30,000 officers. If we had more than 32,000, we had 32,000 officers in the early 2010. 2010 in London we had 33,000 officers. I think with 32,000 officers, plus community support officers, plus police staff, reversing the cuts you've made over the last 7-8 years, the government that is, investing in youth services, we can make real progress. As it is, we're doing what we can in London with one hand tied behind our back. But I commend our police. They work so hard. I commend youth workers who, despite massive cuts, work so hard. I commend parents with all the pressures they have, encouraging their children to be involved in constructive activities. But look, the government can't carry on talking the talk and showing empathy with you, and apparent empathy, but not investing in our society.
Okay. Sadiq, we're going to have to leave it there. We are very delighted that you've taken on the Daily Mail Challenge for the schools. It's fantastic that 400 have joined up. Are you in the London Assembly? Are they doing a Daily Mail there? Are you getting everybody out for a mile a day, Sadiq?
Actually, the Assembly are quite fit and quite chipper in this area, but actually the key focus is young people. It's really important to get young people in healthy lifestyles.
Yeah. I think you're avoiding that a little bit, Sadiq, aren't you?
We want to see you in your shorts.
We want to see you all running up and down the river in front of the Tower Bridge.
Can I say, Kate, I've seen Ben in shorts, and I'm better than my legs are better than Ben's. That's what I say.